Hello guys, and we're back. So we are going to discuss today the deck that I'm planning to play for this weekend's regional champs. But basically, I'm still going to try to qualify for the LCQ on Friday, and so I brought some kind of update for this deck that I have been playing for a while here during our weekly standard tournaments at Prerelease Place, and going to share with you what will be my current deck build in case that this deck will be my pilot for the Friday's LCQ events at Manila. And let me share to you what will be the current deck build. So I've separated some of these lands, and we know the deck is the Golgari Aggro, or the Golgari mid-range per se. So sharing to you what will be the let's say the components of this deck build. So if you've already been reading some of the recent results, I think this deck has made into a top 4 finish, or basically a second place finish in one of the regional champs. I think I watched that one on Twitch. I forgot the place, but that probably would be my reference build for now, as we get to explore the possible meta game, as we also know that we expect more of these top tier decks, but of course we need that our main deck would also be in par to our advantage. So let's see deck for this one. Of course, we'll check on our creatures first. So our lineup here will probably go with the 2 drops of these variants. So we have some Caustic Bronco, Mosswood Red Knight, that's 4 copies. I've decided to include again the Bat, or what they call this one as the Deep Cavern Bat. So the deck build would go with 3 Broncos in the main deck, as we would give you card advantage, and also if saddled, it's one way to clock out your opponent's life total with the life loss damage. And of course the Gas of Mosswood Red Knight, that's 4 copies. And I've also considered that the Cavern Bat are important here, because we'll be able to take out the best card from your opponent, as well as look at their strategy. And even though the discard will be temporary, but you still get a good threat of a flyer and a lifelink, which can also get to be beneficial in some matchups. Of course, you're going to use this one, Dead Whispers, to do some card draw effects, and use life gain to retain that life loss. Of course, for the 3 drops here, I had some variants of the build, which are of course aligned, which I think is aligned for the current meta game. So because we have 3 copies of Uglisa Sunslayer, I'm considered 2 Preacher of the Schism. I'm pretty sure still this would work, but I think if we're facing enough mono red, then maybe the 4 toughness will be very crucial here, and also the life gain from the vampire token. And of course the life link, or the life cost for the card draw, is also essential in the mid-range and control matchups. And the utility cards for the 3 drops here are your copies of Triangle Fearblack and Graveyard Trespasser. This is only 1 copy, but in any certain scenarios it would be very crucial to have because of the Graveyard's exile effect, and also it can protect with itself with a ward card, and much more if it becomes a 4/4 glutton that can exile 2 cards from graveyards, and also a good lifelink and damage source whenever you exile creature cards. So with that, we have also the build back, which I mean again, for the utility purpose, exiling player's graveyard, can destroy wedding announcements and war leader's call, and also gain life against mono red and other aggro decks, and also a good 3/3 body that can saddle to your Bronco. And for our 3rd drop, or I mean the other 4 drop, as the curve implies, are 2 copies. I decided to divide all of these. Hostile Investigator and Shieldred. Of course, the meta game would go with the discard effects, which I know Hostile Investigator is very popular to counter Timor Control's hand, and also have Azorius control, Dimir control discard effects. And the clue token would also be essential in having the draw cards mid-game gas per se. And Shouldered would punish Cardo effects and also gets you to gain life also whenever you draw a card. And your 5-drop here with the top curve for the creatures, Octosot's Deepest Betrayal. It's also can get you a good disruption for opponents, get you to draw a card if your opponents can discard a card. Can also create an army on its own, and also when it dies, it can get to transform and get back again. Just do take note that it should only avoid also exile effects such as that of the Sunfall. And for the spot removals, of course, we have Liliana as a way to disrupt your opponent's hands, and also extra edict effect for your opponent's creatures. So we have 2 copies of that in the deck. We have a variance of spot removals, which going to go with the cut down, go for the throat. That's 3 copies, and a single bitter triumph, which I would consider also relevant to kill off situations such as Jace or the Wandering Emperor, which you cannot kill if you get your creatures controlled. And we have 2 copies of Vicious Command as a main deck board wipe against maybe for the Boros tokens, and also gets you to gain 2 counters and gain lifelink for your best creature. And that the Duress main deck is also popularized now with the black-green build, but I decided to divide it only with that of the bot and this one to have some variance of the curve. And for the necessary consideration for the lands is, of course, the usual man land will be your extra creature to attack. Cavern of Souls lets you resolve your best creature. That would be the Shieldred or your Hostile Investigator. And I've also considered, of course, Channel Lands, Bosiju, and Takinuma. And also, the only other non-basic land here is the Field of Ruin. This is also to answer your opposing creatures' manlands, and maybe get a trick of your opponent's Aklasot. So you know that it would turn back into a non-land when it it gets killed or dies. Then you use again the Field of Ruin to destroy it. And Takinuma, of course, as your channel lands. So the total for the lands here would still follow the usual build of 26. And halfway also are covered here with the creatures and the good old spot removals, Liliana, and of course the discard effects. Now for the sideboard, this is my current sideboard build. It is still subject for changes because of course we have a lot of option or the maybe board list that we are going to follow depending on what we would expect on the local metagame for the last chance qualifiers. So we go here with of course additional Duress for the mid-range and the control matchups. We have a cut down for the aggro, of course Boros and the mono red was still the answer here. We have an Harvester of Misery. This goes also to get to be discarded early on for a -2/-2 effect, or can be casted hard cast for a 5 for menace creature that can also get rid of other creatures with a -2/-2 effect. And with added 4 copies, so the main deck of 2 Investigator, and added also 2 in the sideboard for the control matchups. Additional Geeky's Command, we make sure that we can draw this one by turn 5 to be able to wipe out any of your opponent's board and gain life in the process. Then we have also Nisa, Ascended Animist, as a lone copy in the deck to sustain damage against, let's say, the Domain Control, the Timber Control, and also with the Azorius Control. And also added here are your Path to Peril sweep effects against the Boros and Mono Red Aggro, and even for the Mono White. And then Tear Sunder to go with the specific enchantment or artifact shenanigans, but also can be kicked for a good spot removal for the non-land target. And these are the variants of your build. We have considered the Gitrog Monster of Venus Ride, or the Gitrog only, as our 5-drop for the matchups against control, because it has trample and haste, can also get to attack for 6, And the bonus also whenever you go with the subtle effects. And Tran, of course. I think Tran would still be good here against the Dimir, and also for the Domin matchups, provided you don't have the sweep effects to go to counter this one, and also that you can go to trample also in the 5-5 would also be very good here. And last but not the least is your copy of a Nice and Sears. Timor matchup would still be a good target here, as well also with the 4-color legends, wherein they have a good shenanigans of returning creatures from graveyard, so we will also have this one as a good answer against them. So that's basically it for our Golgari deck update. We'll be playing on the first pod maybe if we get to arrive. I think the LCQ would start around 9 a.m. at the Green Hills shopping mall, and we do hope that our team would be lucky enough that at least the most of us would get to be able to qualify on this LCQ and participate in the Saturday main event for the regional championships. So guys, that's pretty much it for this video over our deck update. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and see you guys on the next upload.